Creepy Mario urban legends?
Now there's a prevalent urban legend online that's called every copy of Mario 64 is personalized,
We
and the theory states that there is some artificial
I've
intelligence in
heard
the
this before.
cartridge of Mario 64
I
that will
believe
change
it.
the game for each individual player, often adding various creepy scenarios into certain copies. And now we're gonna look at one person's creepy experience with this AI that almost drove him insane, as he vowed to never play Mario 64 again. In fact, we have 3 creepy stories to look at today of very odd and almost paranormal things that have happened to people
Serious
while simply
stories.
playing through their favorite Mario game. Each story will be more unsettling than the last, but the final one in particular is the most horrifying Mario story I've ever heard. These are all true stories of people's experiences that were posted online. Now, if you want to believe that these people are telling the truth or not, well, that's for you to decide. After seeing a bunch of Mario 64 videos online, a guy named Josh had the desire again to go back and play his old copy of the game. He hadn't played it since he was a kid, so he went through his storage unit to find his N64, and luckily enough, he also found his copy of Mario 64. So he went home, hooked up everything to his TV, and started up the game.
What
But
do you
when he
think
got
it's
to
gonna
the
be?
title screen, an error code popped up, and he heard a Japanese voice say, "The fun of Nintendo is endless." That was weird, he thought, but it was an old copy, so maybe this was some sort of glitch due to wear and tear. But the error screen went away, so he could now start the game where everything seemed normal again. He played through a good bunch of the levels until he unlocked the Dire Docks stage, where he stood still for a while just outside of the level entrance. He did it for so long that Mario fell asleep, which is when a bunch of weird things started happening. Because suddenly, Wario came out of the Dire Docks entrance and then his console crashed. So he booted the game up again, but when he got to the title screen, the Super Mario logo background was replaced with Japanese text that read, "You can't escape this game." Plus, the file select music was slowed down and a lower
Is this
pitch.
like
He
creepy
then got pretty
pasta?
scared, as the game seemed to address the fact that his console crashed. At this point, he was just stuck on the screen, as none of the buttons seemed to work, until the game just started on its own, but he wasn't playing as Mario this time. No. He was now controlling Wario as the game started from the beginning. The player got so alarmed that he
Sure.
froze and didn't do a thing. So Wario fell asleep, but then he quickly woke up, looked towards the camera, and shook his head, like he was telling the player no. Then he pointed north, telling the player again to go that way. So he reluctantly did, even though he was really starting to get creeped out. And after walking that way for a bit, Peach appeared. But then the game took over, and Wario on his own ran over and jumped onto Peach, in which the screen went black. And when it came back, Peach was lying on the floor with a pile of blood around her. The player was really grossed out
This
now,
is
as he
recreation?
almost threw up. But Wario once again looked at the player and pointed north. So the player, once again, slowly began to walk in that direction until
This
Bowser showed up this
recreation?
time. And the game took control yet again as Wario jumped onto Bowser and the screen turned to black. And this time when it came back, there was a pile of blood again, but no Bowser in sight. The player was so freaked out now that he got up and tried to turn off his N64, but before he could, he noticed Wario walking towards Mario this time. And by using a Mega Mushroom, Wario ran right through Mario, which caused him to explode with his blood flying everywhere. The player had enough. He turned off his N64 now, but then he heard a loud scream from his speakers and the game turned on again. The file select came up and the message, "You can't escape again," was the new background. So the player ripped out the cords, threw his N64 back into the box, taped it up and threw it back into the storage with a note on it that says, "Do not open." After that, he vowed to never play Mario 64 again. Now we just have one more to get through before we can look at the most terrifying story about a Mario game that, well, I
It was
better
alright.
not get ahead of myself. So why don't we move on to this next one?
What was the foreshadow for?
But quickly, if you're liking these videos in this style and want me to make more, then let me know by subscribing so I know you're enjoying the content. Thank you, and let's move on. SMW Central is a site where you can play hacked versions of Mario World made by other users. And a user by the name of Adam from this site was browsing through the unmoderated hack section until he came across a strange hack simply titled Mario. It had a really odd description and title, so his curiosity got the best of him as he downloaded the hack.
This is
The
my
download
favorite version
oddly
of the
came
game.
with this other text file that seemed to just be a bunch of gibberish in it. But he was able to make
This
out
and the
one
DS one
phrase,
with the
"Find me."
minigames.
That was repeated over and over again in the file. Thinking this may have been a mistake by the maker, he moved on and started the game. But we'll definitely learn the meaning of this later, don't you worry. Then he noticed that things looked even more off as the colors were dulled out. Why would someone make the game look like this, he wondered. So the player continued on and pressed start, which showed a text box that explains the plot. He noticed something was different though, as it said it looks like Mario is at it again rather than Bowser. So was Mario the villain in this version? Then he went to Yoshi's house, which wasn't there, and he only saw this weird binary message that translates to notepad. But he continued to the next level, however it was now named Never Come Back. The player was now getting pretty weirded out. When he entered the level, he immediately heard a loud noise of Bowser's clown car crashing and then silence.
Oh,
It was
he couldn't get the
empty.
coin.
There were no enemies. You couldn't collect star coins, and no music played at all. The player was getting really confused now as he continued through this very unsettling level. As he progressed, he got to another speaker box that said, "I hate you." Now the player was wondering just what is going on here? Is the creator of this mod some sort of twisted, warped individual? Or did Mario do something terrible prior to the start of this game? But he finished the level and got to the next one. Here he even unlocked Yoshi, but the text was changed again, because now it said that Mario had trapped Yoshi in the egg. The player was now really questioning what Mario did. Was he the one who attacked Dinosaur Island? Is he enslaving the Yoshis now? He continued to play and see a bunch of these weird text boxes that blamed Mario for the terrible events in the game. And the player began to now get more and more creeped out the more he played the game. However, he was able to beat the first castle, but an even more disturbing message then played. It said, "Victim number 1. Eyeballs were unable to be found. The victim was lying on her carpet. Causes of death unknown. Hand marks with unidentifiable fingerprints were found all over the corpse." Now the player was getting very scared as he thought, what the heck is wrong with the creator of this hack and what is he trying to tell me? After that, the path led him to the Donut Plains level, and in that level, the player immediately saw 2 speaker boxes. The first one said, "There's no way out of here," and the other said, "Fly away." This caused the player to ask even more questions about what these mysterious messages could mean. Then the player walked right, where he went into an invisible pipe. It took him into a room with a creepy black background and a stone floor. There were a bunch of doors here, but none of them he could enter, so he continued on. Then it came to a dead end. With nothing left to do, he proceeded right, and was able to go through the wall using this hidden pipe. This took him to another black room with nothing in it, really. So he tried jumping into the pit, but it was solid. Though he found another invisible pipe there and went down in it. And then, nothing. It was just a black screen. The game had somehow mysteriously crashed. This was the video game representation of Mario dying. However, he was super relieved to be done with this hack, as he described it as a living nightmare playing through it. And after this, the hack was removed from the site. Other users had reported stories of their lights flickering and their computer displaying unsettling images from playing this hack too. But that still leaves us with many mysteries about this, like what is that mysterious text file that says "Find me"? Well, it remained a mystery for a while, until somebody converted the text file into a JPEG file which gave him this image. Now, what a terrifying thing to hide in a Mario game. Seriously, what is this and who is this person? Why, of course, it's none other than victim number 1 from the
Oh,
game. Just look at the text bubble. Eyeballs were unable to be found. Hand marks with unidentifiable fingerprints were found all over the corpse. But who are these victims? What did Mario do to them? And why did he do these things that turned him
oh my
into the
God.
villain? Guess we'll never know.
Now that was truly terrifying.
Yeah, that one
But
was
we
kind
have
of fun.
one more left to go. A story so unsettling, so shocking, that the player in this scenario was scarred for life.
Why I will never
On a
play
kid's
another
12th
Mario game.
birthday, his parents gave him $250 and they suddenly went away for the week for marital counseling. Seeing as the kid was the only one in his friend group without an N64 or Mario 64, he quickly rushed to a game store to get just that with this money. But when he got there, they only had one N64 game left due to the system being so popular at the time. And that one game had a sticky note on it that said, "Do not under any circumstance sell." But the kid really wanted a game to play, so the sketchy teenage clerk struck a deal with the kid and asked for extra money to sell him the mysterious game. The kid was desperate to play a game, so he took the offer and bought it. When he got home, he removed the sticky
Maybe these are
note, which
cat.
revealed the game to be Mario
I mean,
64.
maybe hopefully
Conveniently,
this
the
is a
game he
well-written story.
specifically wanted to get. So he excitedly put the game into his N64 and started up the system, but almost immediately something was off. Instead of the normal text that Peach says at the start of the game, the text now read, "Dear player, you don't know what you're getting into. Turn off the system now and get help. Yours truly, the previous owner." While the kid thought it was odd, he was too excited to start playing, so he didn't get phased and continued on. But things kept getting odd and creepy, as when he entered Bob-omb Battlefield, a toad was there waiting for him as soon as he landed. And he said, "You will die if you continue. Turn off the game or I will kill you." While the boy thought that was creepy, he just assumed some hacker had the game before him and wanted to scare the next owner of the game. So he once again continued on. He collected a bunch of stars, unlocked the first
That's
Bowser
true.
door, and
That's
fell
what I
through
would
the trap door. But when he got to the Bowser level, a text bubble appeared that said, "Welcome to hell." Huh. "That's new," said the kid. Then, when he got to the Bowser boss fight, Bowser's eyes were completely black. But yet again, he wasn't phased and beat the boss easily. However, as the screen was transitioning to the castle, he saw Bowser start to get up and transform into a human-like black figure with pointed teeth coming from his mouth. Now the boy was starting to get freaked out, but what caused him to be more scared was after the fight, it didn't warp him back to the main castle hall, but rather the game put him in the endless staircase. But the boy thought he maybe glitched to a later part of the game, and if he could just beat the game by getting to the top of the stairs where the final boss is, then his friends would be super impressed he beat the game so fast. So he ran and ran for minutes on end, but the staircase seemed to never end. And then he saw something odd. A picture frame appeared on the wall of the staircase. And when he went closer to see the picture, he saw something terrifying. It was a picture of himself when he was 6 and his dog Lassie that had passed away. Now things just got real for the boy. He was very shaken up by this game. He didn't have an excuse for this. Then his curiosity got the best of him as he kept going up the stairs, in which he began to see more and more old family photos of his. Then the boy heard something. Something in his house, right outside of his door. It was 2 or 3 a.m., so his parents wouldn't be home yet, so this couldn't be possible. He went over and
They're on
opened
marriage
his
counseling.
door, but nothing was there. So the kid, thinking he was hearing things, continued to play. But as soon as he moved Mario up the stairs some more, he heard the same noise in his house again. So the kid slammed his door and locked it shut. He was terrified now. He was also getting pretty sleepy too, so he rubbed his eyes a bit, but when he opened them again and looked at his TV, Mario was staring directly at him, but now his eyes were totally black, just like Bowser's. So he tried to walk Mario down the staircase to get away from it all, but Mario kept walking slower and slower until he just stood still. Then he looked at the player and gave him a creepy smile with big sharp teeth. And then the game took control as Mario sprinted back up the stairs on his own. And at the same time, he heard the banging noise from outside his room again, like something was walking up his stairs. The kid was totally freaked out, so he hid under his bed. But after a few more seconds, everything stopped and it was quiet. So the kid got up and looked at his TV again, and he saw Mario walking to the final Bowser door. When he touched it, he heard a creak in his own door. Luckily, he locked that one. Then Mario walked to the left, to a painting of a TV this time. Mario then touched the TV painting with his hand, and his TV started to glitch and static. Then Mario turned towards the player and gave him another really creepy smile from before, then jumped into the TV painting. When he did that, his screen shattered and sparks flew out of his TV, which blew him backward and caused him to black out. When he woke up, he was in a hospital with his
Mario
parents
was
and a nurse
standing
next
above
to him.
him.
They caught him up and told him that the house burned down. Then, when he went back to school, his friends obviously had a lot of questions in which the kid really didn't feel like answering them.
Mario
However, his friends brought up a kid named
escaped.
Jeff, who was in fact the previous owner of the game before his parents sold it to that game store. A boy with a similar age, whose parents were also
Jeff the
away
Killer.
when he played that very same game. And when his parents came back, they found Jeff in the basement dead, after he hung himself with the cord of his N64 controller after playing that game.
And this is where our journey comes to an end. Are these stories fact? Are they fiction? Well, why don't you play these games for yourself and find out? It couldn't hurt, right? I mean, these are just video games after all.
That was very interesting.